France, 1942. A truck loaded with Jews drives in an unknown direction. One of the Jews asks the unnamed main character if he has anything to eat and offers a book in exchange.
Ça n'a pas de prix, ça vaut 1000 sandwichs. Et je te les tiens. Merci.
After giving the boy the sandwich, the hero begins flipping through his newly acquired book and asks what language it is.
Ça veut dire papa en persan.
The boy, devouring the sandwich, answers that it is Farsi and that he took the book from Persian neighbors who had been taken away earlier. The book is signed with the name Reza.
8e commandement. Tu ne voleras point. Je crois qu'on peut tous les oublier maintenant.
Meanwhile, the truck enters the forest, and the soldiers order the first 10 to get out, then lead them to the shore and shoot them. Then they bring out the rest, including our main character. Lining them up, the soldiers reload and open fire. Miraculously surviving, the hero begs the soldiers to spare him and says he is Persian, not Jewish. Hearing this, one soldier tells another that their commander named Coke promised 10 cans of stew for any Persian found. The other soldier, Max, assures his friend that the hero is a dead ringer for a Jew, and that facing death, anyone would claim to be African.
Das Erstbeste gesagt, hä? Lügt doch.
Then the hero remembers the book he successfully traded for the sandwich. He takes it out and shows it to the soldiers, and when they see the strange Arabic script, they load him into a vehicle and take him to a concentration camp.
Paul, wenn das kein Perser ist, ne? Das geht auf dich.
Ja.
At the camp, they lead him to the head of the kitchen, named Coke, and say they found him a Persian. Coke asks why they think he is Persian, and the soldiers give him the book.
Du bist Perser.
Zur Hälfte.
Flipping through it, he sees the name of the previous owner and decides that it is the hero's name, calling him Reza.
Du heißt Reza.
Giving the soldiers a couple of cans of stew, he sends them off and begins asking the hero questions, such as the capital of Iran and what language is spoken there.
Wie heißt die Hauptstadt von Persien?
Teheran.
Was heißt Mutter?
Then Coke asks the hero to read something from the book, but the hero says he cannot write or read Farsi, as he only spoke it at home and studied in German. The officer then asks him to at least say something in Farsi. After asking a few more questions, Coke says that if Reza is not lying and is truly Persian, he is very lucky, and his life in the camp will be less grim than the other prisoners. But if he lied, the others will envy him greatly. Coke tells the hero he will work in the kitchen, and, in the evenings, come to his office to teach him Farsi. He is sent to the barracks with the other prisoners, and later to work in the kitchen. The main character realizes he doesn't know the language at all, and begins giving objects names in an imaginary language. That evening, he is brought to the officer for his first lesson. The hero asks why he needs to do this, and the officer answers that, after the war, he plans to move to his brother in Tehran and open a restaurant there.
Nach dem Krieg will ich nach Teheran. Ich möchte dort ein deutsches Restaurant eröffnen.
The Jew explains that Farsi is a very difficult language, and the officer knows this, so he made a plan to learn it. He tried studying on his own but couldn't, so he needed a teacher.
Der Krieg dauert mindestens noch 2 Jahre, 96 Wörter pro Monat und 1152 Wörter im Jahr.
His plan is to learn 10 words a day so that by the end of the war, he will know over 2,000 and speak Farsi comfortably. The hero must help him. He warns again of a terrible death if he lies. Starting work, the hero panics and begins inventing new words, realizing that inventing a word is not that hard. But remembering what you invented and why, that's another matter.
Raj. Ja. Löffel.
After memorizing 10 kitchen words, he comes to Coke in the evening, and their first lesson begins. Reza gives complete nonsense as Farsi, but does it so convincingly that Coke is left enchanted, writing down the new words. The Jew made a small mistake, and the last word, pig, sounded different, unlike Farsi.
Schwein.
Schwein. Yeah.
Returning to the barracks, Reza lies down on his bunk, and instead of sleeping, spends the night trying to remember what he made up for coke. If he is asked and cannot recall the words, death awaits him. Then Max comes to the officer and says he doesn't trust Reza, and that he looks like a typical Jew and must be shot for lying. He says his hands are like a Jew's, his nose like a Jew's, the back of his head like a Jew's, and he even smells like a Jew. Koch asks if the soldier considers himself better at reading people than him.
Halten Sie sich für klüger als mich?
Koch doesn't believe him and dismisses the soldier, but remains cautious and goes down to the kitchen to the Jew. He gives him 40 words and tells him to translate them into Farsi by evening.
Übersetzen wir diese 40 Wörter in Farsi.
40? Ich dachte 4 Wörter am Tag.
The Jew asks for a pen and paper to translate all the words, but the officer refuses, saying he will write them himself. The terrified hero, realizing he cannot invent and memorize 40 new words in a single day, doesn't know what to do. But help comes unexpectedly. Koch loses patience and fires his secretary, who is also Max's girlfriend, and puts the Jew Reza in her place.
Koch hat mich von der Buchführung abgezogen, meine Stelle diesem Perser gegeben.
Max deliberately escorts the Jew to the edge of the camp and lets him escape. Seeing he is alone, the hero runs into the forest and, after a few hundred meters, sees a man in a French uniform pointing a weapon at him. He explains that there is nowhere to run, as there is a minefield on one side and a swamp on the other. Behind him, men with dogs will be sent. The Jew tells his story to the Frenchman, explaining that he must invent words in Farsi.
Les inventer, c'est pas le plus difficile. Mais les retenir après, c'est impossible.
At this time, the German Max and his partner start searching for the Jew. Max deliberately leads his partner astray, saying that he is hiding in an abandoned church.
Ich war mir sicher, dass dieser Bastard sich hier versteckt.
The Jew realizes he has no choice and returns to the camp. Fortunately, no one else noticed his disappearance. Max wanted to report the disappearance to Koch, but he is shocked to see the boy who just escaped standing before him. The main character learns that he is now becoming Koch's secretary. This promotion noticeably eases his life, as now he at least has a pencil and paper, making it much easier to memorize words. Filling out the paperwork, he looks at the names of the newly arrived Jews, and a brilliant idea comes to mind. Taking a sheet with Koch's words, he begins using parts of Jewish names and surnames as Farsi. In the evening, Koch returns and praises him for the work done. He is clearly doing it better than the previous secretary. He also asks how he is doing with his assignment. But the boy gives him a sheet of made-up words, and the officer decides to test how well the Jew himself knows them.
Nein.
Ma.
Scheiße.
Art.
Koch is satisfied and begins to memorize the words with pleasure. The next day, the commandant calls him and asks why some prisoners are treated better than others in the camp. Realizing who he means, Koch explains that Reza is teaching him Farsi, because he plans to move to Iran after the war.
Ich habe in den letzten 6 Monaten 570 Wörter gelernt.
Surprised, the commandant asks why, after the war, Koch suddenly plans to leave Germany, and Koch explains that his brother lives in Iran and he intends to open a restaurant there. The commandant says it is unpatriotic. When the Reich comes to power, his brother emigrates to Greece, and when the war begins, he ends up in Tehran.
Glauben Sie, dass Ihnen Europa nach dem Sieg unter der Reichsführung nicht mehr gefallen wird?
The commandant persists and asks what his brother is doing in a Muslim country while his homeland fights for its future. Koch has no answer. Then the commandant changes the subject, saying they are going on a picnic tomorrow and asks Koch to prepare 30 dishes. During the picnic, a drunk Koch approaches Reza and asks him how to say tree in Farsi. After Reza answers, his expression suddenly changes. The hero got confused and used a word he had already assigned to bread Koch. Like a diligent student, remembered this very well.
Es kann beides bedeuten, warm und rot. Was lass ich durch?
Koch does not believe him. Beating the hero half to death, he orders Max to send him to the mines and tells him not to go easy on him. After working several days in the mine, the hero collapses from exhaustion and they carry him to the barracks to die. Hearing a strange noise, a guard goes to check and sees Reza in a daze, uttering some gibberish in a language unfamiliar to the soldier. The cellmates also claim he is speaking a language unknown to them. Thinking it might actually be Farsi, the soldier runs for Coke and brings him to the barracks. Hearing that he is babbling incoherent but fairly conscious sentences, Coke decides he overreacted and orders the Persian to be urgently taken to the infirmary.
Ruft nach seiner Mutter und sagt, will nach Hause.
In the medical post for soldiers, the doctor asks what language he is speaking, and the Jew says he invented it. No such language exists. A week later, the recovered Reza is called to Coke, who brings him modest apologies and leaves. The hero, taking advantage of the moment, quickly grabs a piece of paper, writes something on it, and then places it in Coke's stack of study cards. Returning, the officer gives him new clothing, telling him not to wear ragged clothes anymore.
Gehört es den Gefangenen, die neulich nach Osten geschickt wurden?
Nein, es sind meine.
Then they begin the lesson, and Reza takes 2 cards from the stack, each with the same word, but different translations. The officer now clearly understands that he was wrong. Later, the commandant calls Coke and says that tomorrow all the prisoners will be transferred to another camp, but Coke asks to leave the Persian there. Then the commandant takes out a folder with reports stating that Reza is actually Coke's lover.
Es genügt.
In the evening, during another lesson, Reza addresses Coke informally in Farsi and suggests they have a conversation in Farsi, and they have a heartfelt dialogue, which for obvious reasons cannot be understood. The next morning, everyone is sent to another camp. Coke sends Reza to work on the farm. Returning a few days later, he finds the camp empty, and the soldier Max points a weapon at him, saying he will kill him because he is a Jew. After a while, new prisoners arrive, including a pair of Italian brothers, one weak and frail. The other, Roberto, tells Reza that he swore to their mother to protect his brother, but he is weak and will most likely not survive in this hell. During another lesson, Coke decides to read poems in Farsi that he wrote himself. After the lesson, he sits the hero at a table and places a plate of food in front of him. The hero asks if he can take it to the barracks, and the officer, looking at him, gives him a can of stew. Returning to the barracks, he gives it to Roberto, who, after feeding his brother, says that now he is in debt to the hero, and, if necessary, would give his life for him.
Y he salvato la vida.
Several months pass, and a new group of prisoners arrives at the camp, among whom Max notices a Persian, a real ethnic Persian.
Der ist wirklich Perser?
Wie gesagt, ich glaube schon.
Realizing that he can finally expose the vile trickster, he runs after the hero, saying that he found a companion for him, and they can now discuss their Persian matters.
Ich habe noch einen Perser gefunden. Die wollen Sie bestimmt kennenlernen.
Robert hears all this and goes away. Meanwhile, Max brings the hero to the barracks and finds the arriving Persian with his throat cut. In rage, he begins to beat Reza, asking how he managed to kill him, but then Robert, the debtor, steps forward and, throwing a knife in front of Max, admits that he did it and receives a shot in the chest. Meanwhile, the officers get drunk in the bar, discussing the approaching Allied armies. Quite intoxicated, Coke goes to his quarters and finds Reza there. Talking heart to heart with him, he tells that his brother, after Hitler came to power, packed his things and fled. And when he learned that Coke joined the party, he stopped communicating with him. He tells Reza that tomorrow he will have to go to the farm again, and realizing what it means, the gloomy hero goes to the barracks. There, exchanging jackets with Roberto's brother, he waits until morning and, instead of going to the farm, joins the flow of the other prisoners. Noticing him, one of the officers reports this to Coke, and he panics and rushes to save his student.
Und ich brauche den Befehl vom Kommandanten.
Pulling him out of the crowd, he takes him aside and asks why he did not go to the farm. The hero responds that he is tired of constantly living in fear and would rather die than live like that.
Ich bin kein Mörder.
Nein? Du sorgst dafür, dass die Mörder gut speisen.
Meanwhile, the commandant reports that an enemy advance is expected soon, and the camp must be evacuated. And by evacuated, he means killing all the prisoners.
Alle Beweise und die verbliebenen Häftlinge müssen beseitigt werden.
Taking money and spare clothing, Coke finds the hero and, leading him out of the camp, goes with him into the forest. Max sees this and begins to chase them, shouting after them. He immediately reports the escape of Coke to the commandant. The commandant does not react, as everyone is in a panic destroying documentation. In a few moments, the enemy forces will arrive. Coke reaches the road with Reza, and at a fork tells him that their paths now diverge and points out the direction to eventually reach the Allies. After walking a few kilometers, Reza finally finds the British base and tells his story. He recounts about 2,840 prisoners, which shocks the officer.
Malheureusement, nous avons aucun registre. Toutes les archives de votre camp ont été brûlées par les nazis avant la libération.
As for Coke, having successfully reached Tehran, at the border he starts babbling nonsense. The border guards do not understand him. In the end, realizing that Reza had been deceiving him all along, he is sent behind bars in the country of his dreams.